Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Simply Midori podcast. I'm Midori,
And I'm Joshua.
and today we're going to follow up with the previous conversation that we had in episode 12. If you haven't listened to it, feel free and listen to episode 12. And here we go. So, in episode 12, Joshua, you talked about how no one visited you in college and you had this God moment where your aunt texted you to say that she loves you and it essentially saved your life.
Right.
Have there been any other times where you've had suicidal thoughts after that moment?
I think so. I think I probably have suicidal thoughts. I think I probably don't take action on it. Like, I think that I have moments where I think, okay, if this person or this scenario or this circumstance is so bad and like it's 100% my fault, I might as well remove myself. And I think that now, though, as a whole, um, I think that now I just remove the idea because I have seen the devastation of suicide. So, for context, I moved to Hawaii when I was whatever age, it doesn't matter. And one of the people that I was training, her mom killed herself. Her father tried to kill himself right after the mom, and then her fiance killed himself. And for the context of time, it was the mom took a bunch of pills and drowned. Um, 3 months later, the dad tried to, and 3 months after that, the fiance wrote this letter. They were, I believe, 22 days from getting married. Wrote a letter, took a shotgun, and that was it. And so after being with her and navigating that dynamic, it was like, holy cow, this has totally devastated her as a whole. And so seeing that, I think removed the idea of actually doing it.
That's a lot. Well, I didn't realize you thought about killing yourself so often.
Well, I don't think it's like a daily basis type of thing.
The way you said it sounds like it.
No, I think that I think that everything goes back to trauma. I think that when your parents get divorced, right, you already look at like blame and shame internally. And so I think that when people add on, when you're already dealing with so much shame and blame as a whole, I think that it just all combines and you think about, well, let's just remove like the problem, so to speak, as a whole. And so I don't think like now I think about suicide, I think that I would say probably I can't like tell you the last time per se. I wouldn't say it was like a decade ago though. I think that now it's just like I can navigate that dynamic and realize that something is never 100% my fault anymore. Versus before, I think I viewed this is solely my fault because the person is blaming me. And so now I have to protect me first and fight that person, so to speak. because I need to reject the shame and the blame that they're going to put on me for this scenario because I know what it could lead to.
That's now.
That's now.
So anytime you feel like someone's blaming you for something, it becomes combative for you.
I think that it depends on what the scenario is,
No, that makes sense.
as a whole. But I think that now, right, when you face trauma, there's so much transference. So, right, it's I believe that they say, right, all relationships are 90% transference from what happened to you as a kid and 10% of reality. And so when I think about that dynamic, I think, okay, so much of this is not actually I caused this in this person, or so much of this is not I did this to this person. A lot of this is their response is a transference of something that they need to actually navigate. And therefore, I don't necessarily need to take on everything, all of the emotions, all of the ideas, all of the frustrations that this person has because they just haven't navigated whatever, their frustrations are.
Mm-hmm.
Versus before, I just took it. And I didn't have the wherewithal even to reject it. And I didn't know how it affected me.
It takes you down like a really bad path.
Yeah, I think especially before, I think when you think about that episode, right, the context that was not there was not just my parents. Um, it was my siblings. And I also just got out of like a relationship. And it was a very similar dynamic where it was 100% my fault that she pseudo cheated on me. And so I didn't have the wherewithal to even navigate my own shame, doubt, and frustrations. And so it became, right, if my family doesn't love me, and like this one person that's supposed to love me doesn't love me or whatever, I'll just end it. I'll just call it go, because right as I mentioned, Christmas was coming and I had no one to essentially be with. And I already spent almost a majority of Christmases alone.
Oh, but well, you also didn't celebrate it.
Right. So Christmas has never been this like happy-go-lucky thing for me. It's been so many people are out with their families and I'm at a bar or at the movies or finding someone to hang out with.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of things that I think probably affected your trauma in a sense. Divorce. I think how many divorces did you get to go through with your dad?
I think I was in the house with maybe four. I think I was in the house with maybe four. Yeah.
So multiple divorces, being cheated on by a significant other. Was this like a long-term relationship that you had been in?
Um,
Well,
like
it's like a lot of fun.
2 years. 2 years.
And then what else did you mention? Oh, being alone on the holidays.
Right.
Those are all three like very that you just mentioned that are very overwhelming life experiences. So let's talk about divorce. I feel like divorce is a pretty intriguing topic when it comes to trauma. Because I often think that when people are on the child of a divorced family, you don't necessarily categorize it as like, oh, this was a traumatic event for me. Like it was a traumatic event for your parents or a parent and a step parent. But I think in having conversations, it is an overall life experience for the child in the situation. So how do you think that's affected like your view on marriage, your view on how you make decisions, your life? Like it's a
Well,
lot to go through one divorce and you got to go through like four. You're like a pro.
well, I think that you realize that I think that I realized as a child this dynamic of people will leave.
Mm,
And so I think that my survival mechanics went into overdrive of what do I need to do, say, or be to make sure this person doesn't leave me. And I believe that most divorces cause that in a child. And I think that simultaneously, so you have this dynamic of I'll do anything to please this person and totally abandon me, what I
right.
want, what I need, etc. And simultaneously, I think that because you blame yourself for this person leaving, because it's, I would say in most divorces, the two people don't sit down and say, it was our fault, it's not your, and even if they did, who knows if that would help for a child, because
Right.
most children are unable to understand that. And so I think that it also creates this need for perfection. And so it's what can I do to be as perfect as possible to make sure that this person loves me and stays engaged and hangs out with me, and the list goes on and on. And so I think you have these two detrimental dynamics at play in terms of your own self-worth and your own self-value, where you essentially will strive for perfection and strive to please the other person.
Right. Yeah. That definitely probably has fed into your perfectionism as an adult
Oh, I think so.
and your driving factor to like always be perfect.
Yes, I think so.
Do you think that um like that's a crazy place to sit because you're taking all the blame when it has literally nothing to do with you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think that that's the part of divorce that we don't talk about,
Hmm.
and especially as you look now, most I I am unable to think of too many of my friends whose parents are married.
Mm.
And I also look at our world as a whole, and most people are either perfectionists or people pleasers or
Mm.
both. And so you just look at the baseline of that's where most of us are. And not only is that the baseline, because of those two dynamics at play, you also have little to no self-worth. And so you really have this
Wow.
scenario of you have no self-worth and you're willing to do whatever for someone, and simultaneously you are striving for this idea of perfection that's a moving target, so you
Right.
always feel like you're failing because this idea doesn't actually exist.
Well, again, it's so like what you think is perfect, Sally might think is the worst thing ever.
Right.
So it's like you create this thing that's not a thing, kind of.
Yeah, I think that was one of my striving ideas on why I wanted to become an entrepreneur,
Mm.
because I had either the combination of my parents um, or teachers that I wanted to please,
Mm.
and because I put on this perfect mask,
Right.
and I got the 4.0s, I got the perfect attendance, I got the ones in citizenship. I'm not sure if that's still a thing.
I have no idea what that is.
Right. Well, you used to get ones, twos, threes, or fours. Ones were basically you did everything you needed to, and you were like the perfect student. And twos are like you sometimes talk too much. Threes are like you just were off in no man's land.
I don't think I've ever gotten a grade about being a citizen.
What?
Did you say you're a citizen award?
Citizenship.
Or your citizenship? No, we definitely don't.
Yeah. It was like this whole dynamic of ones, twos, threes, fours. Fours were basically immediate parent teacher conference type of thing.
Oh. Well, you really didn't have a parent to go to your parent teacher.
Well, I never got fours. I always got ones. like pretty much I can recall one or two times where I got twos through eighth grade. And I think it was eighth grade where I looked at, okay, I fought to get salutatory in. I fought to get good grades. I fought to learn as much as I can. I fought for these things. And I am, by all terms, from our like kids' mindset, a loser.
Mm.
So it was, I think it kind of just became the point of, like, why am I doing
So you're
this?
just losing everywhere. You're like winning at school on grades, but like losing in the social circle.
For sure, like
Winning at
plummeting.
home, winning at home, doing whatever, but losing on approval from your step parents,
Right?
Your stepmom,
Because they would just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one day I've always told myself I'm going to write all of like the dynamics because it almost feels like a movie. Like it's and the fact that I'm still like existing
You're
and
still standing.
still standing.
What's that one movie that people reference?
Antoine Fisher.
Yeah, what's the movie?
It's Antoine Fisher.
Oh, that's the movie?
Yes. It's the movie and the character.
Oh, I've never seen it, but people reference it a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still standing. Maybe we should get you a stick.
Yeah. So I did have a lot of those dynamics, and I think that's why I can understand it so well and understand the person so well because I've experienced so much of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have like it's like past empathy because you have like an experience with it.
Right.
Like empaths don't always necessarily have an experience that matches the other person's.
Yes.
You got lots of experiences in your book.
Okay.
But it's helpful for other people and you to like work through.
Yeah,
You've done a lot of work.
Yes. It's been a lot of work to get here. And um that's why I find that I'm in a place now where you said, when people blame you, do you fight? It's because I feel like so much of people's blame is shame. And I'm fighting their shame off of me. Like, I've already fought so much shame.
Like when they blame you, they're not just blaming you, they're telling you they're also throwing shame at you.
Yes, 100%. Like, I don't think that our society anymore, um, any of us separates, right. What's that saying? We throw the baby out with the bathwater. Right. I think that that's what we do. What, you've never heard that saying?
I have, I never understood it, so I just usually people say it like, oh yeah.
Like, right, there's a baby and there's bathwater, and
Right.
so we'll take it and throw it all out. But it's like the baby's actually, we should save the baby. We shouldn't throw it all out just because the bathwater is old or cold and I think that's what we do, like, right, as a society with any problem.
The water drains in the bath.
Oh my gosh. It's a saying.
I still listening. But I understand.
Okay, well, there's so many other sayings.
But I understand now the concept. Like you just all of it's got to go.
So here's a better metaphor for you, right?
Like 6 8.
We don't separate the sin and the sinner. So, right, we condemn the sin in the sinner versus what we actually need to do is separate. You are a person that's loved by Jesus. You are a person that's a royal priesthood. This sin is not of you, not what you're called to be. And although you're navigating it at this moment,
I see.
it is not who you are. And therefore, we can condemn the sin,
Right.
but we are not condemning you. Well, what happens is,
Oh, that's when people like throw the shame at you.
yes,
So you're like, what I did might have been shameful, bad, whatever, but they're characterizing you as a shameful person or as like a
100%.
failure or whatever.
Yes.
And so what you're doing now is separating two. Like I'm Joshua. I am Zeus. You know, in order to understand the Zeus reference, you can either call my sister Keiko, or you can listen to another episode, a previous episode. I forget which number it is, so.
That's episode 12.
12. No, episode 12 was about the suicide. About your suicide.
Okay, episode 11. Whatever. Stay on topic.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so
that makes sense. So I see what you're saying. So when someone is frustrated with you,
oh, just me?
or just in general, no, I'm talking about you.
Okay.
Instead of it being like you did X wrong, you take it as I'm wrong.
No, I think that how it's communicated.
Like as a child, I'm saying.
Oh, I think 100%.
So when you heard as a child, or when your dad got divorced 47 times, okay. You felt that it's like, it's my fault, and I am, not only am I wrong, not only did I do wrong, I am wrong.
Right.
And you just carried that with you. It's horrible.
100%. Well, I think that's...
But it's horrible, and it makes total sense.
Excuse me, I think that that's the dynamic of parents, and that's why parents have such a profound stake in their kids' lives, because right, we've talked about the inner critic, and it's the inner critic, even whether your parents are divorced or not, is simply your parents keep correcting, keep reinforcing, keep disciplining in such a tone, in such a language, and such force. And because you're so young and so small and
so
vulnerable, you keep accepting it, accepting it, accepting it, accepting it.
Yeah, you're so trusting of what people are saying.
And next thing you know, you have no separation of I did wrong versus I am wrong. And so you grow up as an adult, and your whole filter of life is I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm shameful, right. And then you go into the world, right, which I would say isn't sometimes the most reaffirming. And right, it's reinforced, and we get in these relationships and it's reinforced. And it's right, we all study right, the Pavlov's dog, right? You remember the study, the dog?
It's like all of you want.
The only thing that gets us to do it, right? I heard you bark. Right? It starts with the treat. It's the positive reinforcement that does it.
Right.
But it's like we do the shock treatment and we do the negative reinforcement, and it's like, well,
and we expect the good behavior to be repeated from the negative reinforcement.
100%.
Yeah. I'm sure it happens in friendships, child parent, marriages.
Everywhere. I've seen it almost, I would say almost every single couple that I've counseled, they use negative reinforcement to get their spouse to do what they want them to do.
Yeah, it's like Josh and I used to have this inside joke whenever one of us was being down on the other. What's that song? Speak live, speak live.
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
I'm not sure what the song is.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else? I think we can wrap up this episode. And we can talk about your trauma next episode.
Yeah. No, do you have anything that you would say to a child that got to experience Divorce.
Yeah, I think that it's not you.
Yeah.
It's not your fault. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of kindness. And you are worthy of supporting yourself.
Mm.
And I think that you have to fight to find your love and value. Because no matter what, nothing is going to bring you that. No material, no,
Yeah.
there's nothing that's going to bring you your self-worth. And I think even when we talk about and we wrestle with Jesus, it's like I think that so many of us, uh, even as we find Jesus and we read these things like you're right, you're above and not beneath.
Yeah.
You're royal. You're a royal priesthood.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right. That's such a place of strength. But because we don't actually value ourselves,
Right.
and because we don't look at ourselves that way, regardless of what the Bible says, um, we don't operate that way.
Mm.
And so our relationship with Jesus becomes so much harder.
Yeah.
Because we don't actually ever see ourselves as Jesus sees us.
Yeah, I really loved what you said. View yourself like Jesus views you.
Even and we can end with this. Even the idea of right, it's like love your neighbor,
Right.
love God, love your neighbor as yourself. Most of us treat ourselves so poorly that of course we're going to treat our neighbors
Oh,
poorly.
that's interesting. Or at least the self-talk to yourself is so
Right.
bad.
Like,
Like if you said to your neighbor what you said to yourself, they'd probably be like, whoa, well, thank you. Close my garage
right.
right when I pull in.
But that's how most of us are walking around. We're walking around throughout the day. Something happens. Boom. It's the parental trigger or the caregiver trigger, and we run this long program internally, and we explode internally, and we create the worst dynamic. We are the worst people. We are the worst, and it's like we're all walking around doing that, and then it's right. I come up to you, and it's like, and you flip.
Right.
Well, it's like you've already
like that guy at the ticket agent.
Oh yeah, that guy was.
He was very mad at you.
He was very mad at me. But that's the dynamic that
Yeah.
most of us are dealing with, and so it's like you have this scar, you have this wound that's covered up, and you're navigating it, and I come by and I unknowingly touch it,
Brush up against it in the Starbucks line.
brush up against it, and then you do that, and you rub up against my scar.
Yeah, it's like this vicious cycle.
And I lose it. And now we're both losing it. And even if we do calm down, we probably don't actually calm down our bodies and actually release that energy or that
Right.
emotion.
Yeah.
So right, we do it again and again and again and again and again over and over. And that's how most of us live our days. It's just someone brushes up against.
And then the day's over and you're like, got nothing done because you've lived in like a trigger all day.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a great place to stay.
That's not. That's why we have an event that can help you. And we have therapy that can help you, and we have Jesus that can help you.
What if you don't believe in Jesus?
I think that if you don't believe in Jesus, you get to start therapy. You get to start personal development. You get to start doing some inner work as a whole.
Would the inner work be the end goal to get to know Jesus, or would the inner work be to get to know yourself better?
I think that it's hard to get to know my personal experience. I think it's hard to get to know yourself and not see the amazingness and realize that you could not have this could not be some sort of coincidence.
Mm.
I think that the higher you go in terms of understanding and loving yourself, it becomes hard to accept this idea that we evolved from, you know, the Big Bang Theory, and here we are, and we've evolved from monkeys and all of. I think that that idea becomes harder the more you understand how uniquely created and designed you that you're wired. It just,
Yeah.
but that's my own like personal opinion.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. So, separate the sin and the sinner.
Yeah. Until next time.